My parents forced my brother to live in a dog cage. Today I found out why. My little brother Ollie lives in the basement. He's never allowed out. Mom says if he escaped it would be the end of us. She says that a lot. I was too young to remember when Ollie was born, but I know something bad happened to my sister and that's why we keep him in a cage. I go downstairs to feed him 3 times a day. Sometimes he's really angry. He'll even slam against the bars and try to escape. Other times he's just sad. I think Ollie likes me. Whenever my parents are busy, and I'm sure they won't find out, I stay in the basement to play. There's a ball and he really likes it when we toss it back and forth. I never get too close to the cage, though. Mom would be furious if she caught me doing that. But one time, she did. While I was playing in the basement, I heard her come home early and had to run upstairs super fast. When she caught me, she made us hold hands and light a candle and pray until it's safe. Even though I'm not supposed to look, sometimes I do. This one time I saw a shadow floating across the wall, except it was thicker than a shadow. One time, when Mom and Dad were away, I heard Ollie cry. He was really loud. Even though I'd already fed him, I went downstairs to check he was okay. I went slowly, shuffling my feet, holding one arm out. Ollie pushed his arm past the bars. He just wanted some company, I think. And I could understand why. There's times when I get sad and need a hug to feel better. All of a sudden, we were holding hands. He didn't attack or try to hurt me. So I used a broom to get the key off the wall and let him out of his cage. But then, as we ran around the room giggling and playing, I heard someone scream at the top of the stairs. It was Mom. She came down and threw Ollie back into his cage and locked it. Then she dragged me into the kitchen where we prayed quietly until Dad got home. After Mom explained what happened, Dad looked super angry, and I was really scared. Dad said it brought him shame to have such a sinful daughter who disobeyed her parents' instructions. He said my sister succumbed to sin too, and that's why Ollie is such a monster, and why if they didn't hide him, it would be the end of us. Then he said I had to be purged of evil spirits, just like my sister. And then he started preparing for the ritual. On the second night of the ritual, my tummy and throat were sore from being so thirsty, but Dad wouldn't let me climb down from the altar to have a juice box. It was my fault for letting Ollie out of his cage to play. I started feeling really dizzy, like I was falling asleep. And the smell of blood was making me sick. But whenever I told Dad, he just prayed even harder. The only times Mom left was to go feed Ollie. I didn't know how to purge myself from sin, so I just kept my head bowed and prayed along with Dad. Eventually, he climbed up onto the altar and said, "Do you repent?" I do. Truly? Yes. Swear never to disobey my orders again. I swear. Right as I said it, he looked at the ceiling. It made me confused, until I heard something move around upstairs. I thought maybe Ollie escaped from his cage, but then Dad's face got super pale. When I turned around, my heart dropped. The spirits were back. He unhooked me, then pulled me off the altar and onto the floor in a circle with him and Mom. Then he lit a candle and said, "Pray harder than you've ever prayed before." I did. The sounds moved around. I heard things get knocked off the walls and floorboards groan. At one point Mom started to cry and Dad got really mad. He grabbed her hair bun and screamed, "Just pray." The door suddenly swung open and this huge gust of wind blew against us. I almost tipped over. Mom's hand started trembling. I peeked open my right eye and saw she was crying. The candle was out, too. My parents' breath started fogging up, even though mine didn't. And then the shadow was there. I wasn't scared, though. Mom's voice sounded like she had something stuck in her throat when she said, "I can feel evil. It's here." "Shut up and keep praying," Dad replied. "It's so close. We should shut up and pray." We prayed for what felt like an eternity. And then, the room settled. Dad got up to check the house. Mom cried into her hands until he came back and said there was work to be done. Mom gave me water and then made me sweep up glass. In the upstairs hallway, all the pictures of my parents were smashed. When Mom saw that, she closed her eyes really hard. After that, they made me feed Ollie, and he was very upset. I could understand why. We hadn't played together for a while. Over the next few days, the spirit came back frequently. I'd hear a noise in the corner of my room at night or see a shadow dance along the wall. I sometimes followed it around and even tried to talk to it. I asked why it kept coming back, and whether it wanted to be friends. It had never been around so much before. One time, after Mom and Dad fell asleep, the spirit led me toward the basement. It wanted me to comfort Ollie, I think. But I was too scared. If Mom and Dad caught me, I'd get cleansed again. For a while, even when he wasn't praying, Dad would just sit by the altar, concentrating super hard, until eventually he called us into the kitchen. "The spirit won't leave because of Ollie." "Ollie?" Mom asked. He nodded. "Sin attracts dark spirits. But we purged Bridget. We purged Bridget for succumbing to sin, but Ollie was born of that sin. The only way to make the spirits leave is to purge him, too." Mom nodded, but I was really scared. I loved Ollie, and he loved me. I had to stand up for him. "No. Ollie is good. You always say if he escaped it would be the end of us, but when Dad stood and slammed his fist against the table. "Damn it, I've already lost one daughter. Do I have to lose another?" I flinched. As he circled the table and stood over me, he seemed to grow bigger. "Ollie must be cleansed. We'll begin the ritual at dawn." He grabbed me in Mom's hands. "Let's pray." That night, I couldn't sleep. I didn't want Ollie to go through the ritual. He was my brother. Suddenly, the pictures began to spin on my walls. I sat up and rubbed my eyes. The shadow was back. The room suddenly got very warm. When I looked around, the shadow was floating over my bed. It sort of looked like a figure. And when it came close, I felt something gently stroke my cheek. It reminded me of when me and Ollie cuddled that time I let him out of the cage. I couldn't let my parents perform the ritual. He might have died. Like Bridget, I got up and followed the shadow. It led me down the hall, where the door to my parents' room slowly creaked open. Mom and Dad's breath fogged up as the shadow got close to their bed. It was guiding me to the key hanging from the bedpost. Tiptoeing across the room, I swiped the key, went into the basement, and unlocked Ollie's cage. When he woke up, he started crying. It made me really scared. If our parents heard. I hugged Ollie to calm him down. Then, carrying him toward the front door, he began to fidget, causing me to stumble forward. He banged his elbow and squealed. My stomach twisted as I scooped him up and begged him to be quiet. But it was too late. Dad and Mom were already up. Dad charged down the stairs, Mom just a few steps behind. I ran into the other room and hid beneath the altar, but Ollie wouldn't stop crying. Mom found us and said, "Now we have two sinful children, two little monsters. If either of you got loose, it would be the end of us." I held Ollie close, thinking we were both about to get purged. But then something really weird happened. The shadow morphed. It became a person who wasn't there, standing between me and my parents. The person who wasn't there moved toward them. After a few seconds, Mom screamed so loud I thought her throat was going to burst. Both she and Dad fell to their knees and prayed. There was a noise, like whispers. My parents prayed even louder as the spirit became a solid human. Soon it was almost like a regular person. It looked like my mom, only younger. It was older than me, though. Mom and Dad both prayed and cried on their hands and knees. Soon cracks opened on the walls, and the floor was shaking so much I nearly tripped. The lady looked back and smiled at me. There was another gust of wind, which broke the front door off its hinges. So I turned and ran to the hall. And as I did, both my parents screamed. I looked back and saw them both hooked onto the altar. Their screams got higher and higher. And then I heard something wet splatter inside the house. I think they stopped to get a drink of water, because they were both super quiet after that. Maybe their throats got sore? After following the lane down to the end of the road, I carried Ollie along in the cold rain until a set of headlights lit us up. A man and a lady climbed out of a car and rushed over, asking if we were okay. I said we'd had to run away, otherwise our parents would have made us undergo the ritual. The lady and the man looked at each other, then took us into their car and threw a warm blanket over us. The lady promised to take us somewhere safe. Then she gave us some food and a juice box. It made me sad to leave Mom and Dad behind, but I had to rescue Ollie. I gave him a cuddle, to let him know everything was okay. And then cuddled me back, before falling asleep nested between my arms.